Here you go, GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Wootton tonight. The monarchy is under attack and it's an inside job. In the opening salvo of their Netflix-funded hate campaign, Prince Harry and Meghan have declared war on Britain herself, accusing Crown and country of racism and even tearing down the late Queen Elizabeth's legacy by condemning the Commonwealth as the empire by another name.
Obviously now people are very aware of my race because they made it such an issue when I went to the UK, but
I'll deliver my blistering review in my digest next before I poll my superstar panel, Dominic Samuels, Sean Bailey and Amy Nicole. Also coming up this evening, Meghan's estranged sister Samantha Markle hits back in a TV World exclusive after being made the villain of the Duchess's story. Plus, the man who's documented Harry and Meghan's revenge mission from the start, biographer Tom Bauer, reacts to their latest action of treachery. He's live at 10:20. At 9:35, our royal masterminds, Lady Colin Campbell and Phil Dampier, return to ask if Harry, the former third in line to the throne, has become a de facto Republican. And as Tory MP Bob Seeley tables a bombshell bill, should they be stripped of their royal titles? Well, the man himself debates with royal insider Lady Victoria Harvey and broadcaster Denise Headley at 9:20. I want your verdict on that too. Plus, as they plot a general strike and all but name, do the Tories need to channel Thatcher and get tough on the militant unions? Former Conservative Minister Anne Widdecombe weighs in at 9:50. And as his plans caused chaos in Westminster and spark outrage from eco-activists, is Michael Gove right to open the UK's first coal mine in 30 years? That's our big debate at 10:30. Really sad news today too, as music icon Celine Dion reveals a heartbreaking diagnosis that could turn her into a living statue.
And I really hope I can see you again real soon.
Oh, Celine, I'm going to tell you about her shock prognosis. Plus, we'll have tomorrow's newspaper reactions to the Sussex strike back. That's in the media buzz at 10. A new Greatest Britain and Union jackass before the show is out as well. This is Dan Wootton tonight. Let's go. So my opinion on this revolting Netflix atrocity on the way, but you know we do the news first, so here's the headlines at 9 with Ray Addison.
Thanks, Dan. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. The mother of Harry Dunn says her promise to get justice for her son is well and truly complete following the sentencing of Anne Sakoulas for causing his death by careless driving. The wife of a US diplomat received 8 months in prison, suspended for 12 months. In 2019, she was driving on the wrong side of the road when she hit the 19-year-old and later pleaded guilty to causing his death. Mrs. Sakoulas says she's deeply sorry for the pain that she caused. Speaking outside the court, Harry's mum, Charlotte Charles, praised the verdict and a warning for those watching on television. This clip contains flashing images.
You know, Anne Sakoulas has a criminal record for the rest of her life. That was something that, you know, she never thought she'd see, the US government never thought that they'd see. And we've worked tirelessly and relentlessly to make sure that she, in the end, still had to do what you and I would have had to have done. So, yeah, Harry, we've done it. And we're good.
15 children under the age of 15 have now died from Strep A. The UK Health Security Agency says 13 have died in England since September, whilst Northern Ireland and Wales recorded 1 death each. Health officials say there's currently no evidence of a new strain, and the rise in cases is probably due to bacterial transfer during increased social mixing. Waiting lists for routine NHS treatment in England have hit a record high, and A&E performances are now at a record low. According to the NHS, 7.2 million people were waiting to start routine treatment at the end of October, and just 67% of A&E patients were seen within 4 hours of being admitted. Ambulance response times have improved, but are still more than 40 minutes behind the 18-minute target. The government has defended its decision to open the first UK coal mine for 30 years, saying it will create hundreds of jobs. The Levelling Up Secretary has given planning permission for the new mine in Cumbria, despite a government commitment to phase out coal. COP26 President Alok Sharma called the decision a backward step for UK climate action. Speaking to GB News, Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves refused to say if a future Labour government would close the pit.
We want to create jobs in the north of England, including in Cumbria, but we will be doing that by investing in the jobs and the industries of the future. We've got today a fossil fuel Prime Minister in the age of renewables, investing in the industries of the past rather than those of the future.
Senior palace sources are denying claims that the royal family declined to comment on allegations made in the Duke and Duchess of Sussexes Netflix series. It's understood that Kensington Palace did receive an email from a third-party production company, but attempts to verify it received no response. Now, that contradicts a statement made at the start of the programme. In the series, Harry accuses the royal family of a huge level of unconscious bias. We're on TV, online and on DAB+ radio. This is the People's Channel, GB News. Back now to Dan.
An act of treachery against their own flesh and blood, the institution of the monarchy, our late, great Queen Elizabeth II, the United Kingdom, the British public and even the Commonwealth. Yep, the Duke and Duchess of Delusion went for the jugular in the disgraceful first 3 episodes of their Netflix reality show, taking millions in dirty Hollywood money to pursue a deranged attack on their enemies. Overcome by the woke mind virus, Harry and Meghan go to war with the 52% of us who voted for Brexit to secure the independence of our great country, especially those of us who are rightly concerned about the illegal immigration problem plaguing the country.
The EU commissioned a report in 2016, exactly the same time that our relationship became public. It warned that if the government isn't going to do something, or if the media aren't going to sort themselves out, that a culture war that had already existed was going to become huge and become a real problem.
It was a perfect storm that gave credence to jingoism and nationalism and gave people with really horrible views of the world a little bit more strength and confidence to say what they wanted to say, to do whatever they wanted to do.
Oh yes, I'm sure you've got it by now. Harry and Meghan didn't Megxit because they are jealous of Charles and Camilla and William and Kate being higher up in the pecking order than them. They didn't Megxit because they couldn't be bothered with the hard work and toil that comes with a life of service. They didn't Megxit because they wanted to go and live in a 16-bedroom Californian mansion surrounded by Hollywood sycophants to coin in millions for pretending to be victims. Nope, they were forced out of the UK because this is some sort of racist colonial hellhole that was never going to accept an American mixed-race princess. Which is kind of funny because we'd already accepted and celebrated an American mixed-race princess as the greatest thing to have happened to the royal family back in 2018. But Harry and Meghan want you to believe their disgraceful behaviour, bullying, tantrums, lies was irrelevant because everything came back to race.
So now people are very aware of my race because they made it such an issue when I went to the UK. But before that, most people didn't treat me like a black woman.
Why should you get special treatment? Why should she be protected? And I said, the difference here is the race element. In this family, sometimes, you're part of the problem rather than part of the solution. And there is a huge level of unconscious bias.
And I said to her, I remember this very clearly, that
this is about race. And Meg said, Mommy, I don't want to hear that. I said, well, you may not want to hear it, but this is what's coming down the pike.
So let's just remind ourselves once more of how the UK actually welcomed Harry and Meghan's union with overwhelming positivity. But in the left-wing world of woke, victimhood sells. So somehow we're supposed to feel sorry for Harry and Meghan, two of the richest, most connected, most privileged people in the world, fleeing the UK on first-class flights to first-class mansions.
Finished our 2 weeks. Our final push, our last stint of royal engagements.
H is in London and I'm here. I don't even know where to begin.
By the nature of being born into this position and with everything else that comes with it and the level of hate that has been stirred up in the last 3 years, especially against my wife.
I just really want to get to the other side of all of this. They are destroying us.
So while they're desperate to present themselves as victims of the media, I wanted to bring some facts to this debate. The paparazzi intrusion they speak of took place, all of it, outside of the UK, in the US and Canada, like this moment in New York.
Do we have that pap on the scooter again?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, we do? Really? Same guy?
Same guy.
Oh my God, how
Watched him go into this park and then...
Is he with us?
Yes, sir. He was just ahead.
Yeah, those, the guys in the basement of the building, too, as we were doing that walk, they were recording, too, just so you're aware. This path, I mean, worst case scenario, so safety first. Worst case scenario, we're going from one garage to another. Like, it's...
That happened in America, not the UK, where they have lots of protection because of deals done between the media and the royal family. Of course, the woke American media has lapped all of this up, loving presenting our royal family and country as institutionally racist, despite categorical evidence it's not.
Are packed with personal photos and home videos because they want to tell their side of the story and their version of events.
What it really was the couple's chance to tell their love story on their own terms.
In part, it's a royal love story, in part a criticism of the way the royal system works.
So interesting how different the palace is. They're sort of stiff upper lip people, and then this is sort of like putting everything out there.
It is a beautifully produced vision of a marriage and a family that's been pursued and victimized by the tabloid media.
I think people will have a different perspective when they get to hear what they have to say.
The small mercy of today's Netflix atrocity against truth and decency is that the late Queen wasn't here to witness this betrayal. And I'm also glad the world can now see Harry and Meghan for what I've known they are for some time. Narcissistic egotists who will put money and fame ahead of honesty and family. Their pretense for privacy is now shot forever, having shared private text messages, emails, pictures and videos. Heck, Meghan even revealed she stopped halfway through Harry's marriage proposal to take pictures for this moment.
Of course I got down on one knee. Of course I did.
I was down on one knee and I was just like, yes, you're so joyful and excited. It's like, oh, we're doing this.
Their bitterness towards William and Kate was evident on more than one occasion, with these being, I think, the most overt digs.
Many people in the family, especially obviously the men, there can be a temptation or an urge to marry someone who would fit the mold, as opposed to somebody who you perhaps are destined to be with. The difference between making decisions with your head or your heart.
I've always been a hugger. I didn't realize that is really jarring for a lot of Brits. I guess I'd started to understand very quickly that the formality on the outside carried through on the inside. That there is a forward-facing way of being. And then you close the door and you go, oh, great. Okay, we can relax now. But that formality carries over on both sides. And that was surprising to me.
So Harry and Meghan might think they're about to bring down the royal family and the British monarchy. But I believe this woeful Netflix reality series will, in the end, only destroy their own reputations. The entire world can now see their two chances motivated by money and revenge, with no regard for their own family or the country and institution that made them both who they are today. But to respond now, my superstar panel, political commentator Dominique Samuels, former Conservative London mayoral candidate Sean Bailey, and author and broadcaster Amy Nicole. Dominique, your first reaction?
Mine was, I mean, watching it at first, I think it was pretty, you know, it was kind of anticlimactic because we'd seen a lot of their story before, you know, with the numerous glossy, uncritical interviews that they've done. So a lot of it was unsurprising, but it was nice to see them finally, you know, smiling and laughing, because most of the time we have to listen to them complaining. But for me, the most shocking moment where I was just aghast was when they used Brexit to score some really cheap far-left political point using numerous, you know, obviously left-wing Guardian-esque...
Like contextualising the time.
Using the BBC-esque sort of stereotype of all Brexit voters being, you know, bigoted and racist and xenophobic. And I think it's
when
actually...
it's 52% of us.
Exactly, 70.
And actually, it's a lot more than 52% of people that are worried about illegal immigration right now.
Exactly, and especially for me, I also come from a mixed-race background, Meghan, and I supported Brexit and actually do believe in controlling our borders. It's all sort of an excuse that seeks to absolve Meghan and Harry from any sort of responsibility. And like you said, I think they've exposed themselves now by, you know, jumping and hopping on these cheap political points and using it to victimise themselves. They're not interested in accountability. They're not interested in truth. What they are interested in is revenge and stirring up hate and controversy, and that's sad.
Sean Bailey, it was despicable the way they presented Brexit voters, and I actually take issue with what Amy's just said. I think they did present all Brexit voters as racist. That is what they were saying.
And that's such misinformation.
If we take what Amy said, the problem was a lot of...
I didn't say anything.
A lot of people on the left...
You'll get your chance.
A lot of people on the left use Brexit as an excuse to say the country's racist, this, that and the other. But I'd say, look, we're a country having a conversation about race, unique. Nobody else is trying to get to the resolutions we are. Is there racism? Of course there is. But we're trying to do something about it far ahead of anybody else. But what I saw when I watched this thing, and this is just the kind of thing I would never watch...
we made you do it.
Oh, you did. It was a real piece of Hollywood. At the beginning, it felt like, oh, this is great. This is a real love story. I was loving it. I thought, hey, like a Mills and Boon novel. But then it rolled on, and it did two important things. One, I really, really disliked the fact that they put themselves against 52% of the country. That ruins their friendships. They've lost people who would have embraced them.
That was about 5 seconds.
But the other piece as well, what I took away from it is an important 5 seconds. What I took away from it was this. It isn't all Meghan. For me, it looked like it was Meghan who came here and brainwashed him. But I believe he made a comment when he said he had to protect his family, and that said to me that he sees the whole institution as against him and his family.
He hates his family.
I have always said I have never been one of those people that has blamed Meghan. I blame both of them equally, and I've always been consistent on that.
I think the difference is that whilst Harry clearly hates his family, what Meghan is doing is she's using that to energise her campaign to force...
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying she hasn't been manipulative, but I think he wanted to be manipulated.
Yeah.
Amy Nicole, you say they were not critical of all Brexit voters. I'm sorry, they absolutely were. They said there was a direct link between Brexit and racism. They showed marches of people flying the Union Jack and flying the English flag as if patriotism is a bad thing. And they said that if you were concerned about illegal immigration, it made you a bad actor.
I know that it might make you uncomfortable, but racism did play a part in a lot of the reason that a lot of people did vote for Brexit, and that is
rubbish. It's not a fact. No.
Rubbish.
You don't come on this sofa and say that it's a fact. You say that 52% of this country were racist for voting Brexit. Well, you said for a large proportion of those voters. That's a despicable thing to say, Amy, and I'm not just going to have that. Where is your proof that people who voted for Brexit were racist?
Let me finish a sentence.
Well, where's your proof?
The proof is in the fact that not most people, a minority of people, some people who voted for Brexit did so because they wanted to take control of our borders to stop foreigners coming in.
How was that racist?
That suggests a little bit of racism. It suggests a little. But can we rewind and talk about Brexit? So you talked about why you think this happened. You blame, what was it, Kate and William, jealousy, something like that. The reason that it happened is because being in the royal family is a human rights violation, a by birth contractual obligation to the media.
Well, then
and
he
the
should
public.
hand back his titles then if he hates it so much. Hand back the titles. No one is forced to stay part of the royal family once they are an adult.
Amy, can I just say where you may be wrong?
I have never been able
Amy,
to finish sentence, and today I will.
Let me tell you where you're wrong. If you're saying there's a by birth legal obligation to work for a living, then you're correct. But of course,
Amy,
you're wrong.
Amy, we're going to talk much more about this.
Outside your school as a child.
We're going to talk much more about this over the next hour.
And that's why the royal family is done.
No, but that's perfectly fine. But there's a difference between saying, hey, I don't like the way I was treated. I don't want to be the Duke and Duchess of Sussex anymore.
Look
They're
at
not
the
doing
reaction.
that.
You're not free to leave the royal family. You've demonstrated that by your reaction.
You are free. They don't want to leave. Amy Nicole, Sean Bailey, Dominic Samuels, my superstar panel, and we are going to be talking about this much more in the next hour. Don't you worry about that. But coming up is Harry's desperation to compare Meghan to his mum, an insult to the memory of the People's Princess. My royal masterminds, Lady Colin Campbell and Phil Dampier, give their verdict on the Sussexes' nauseating reality show at 9:35. But first, as Tory MP Bob Seeley prepares to table a bombshell bill, should Harry and Meghan be stripped of their royal titles? Bob joins me live in the studio with royal insider Lady Victoria Harvey, and they'll duke it out with the broadcaster Denise Headley in The Clash next. This is part of the show where you get your voice heard too. Email me, dan@gbnews.uk. Our poll running at GB News. The results after the break.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Time now for The Clash. Now, as I've already said in my digest, the Duke and Duchess of Delusion's new Netflix show is every bit an act of treachery against not only their own flesh and blood, but the institution of the monarchy and the United Kingdom as a whole. So after making it brutally clear they don't want anything to do with the royals, should Harry and Meghan be stripped of their titles? Send me your thoughts to dan@gbnews.uk, tweet me at gbnews. And we'll bring you the results shortly. But duking it out now, I'm joined by the royal commentator and broadcaster Denise Headley, the socialite and aristocrat Lady Victoria Harvey, and the Conservative MP Bob Seeley, who we can tell you, breaking tonight, is preparing to table a bill to strip Harry and Meghan of their Duke and Duchess status. So, Bob, this is breaking news. What can you tell us?
Well, there's a couple of bills, Dan, that are going to be doing the rounds. To be fair to Rachel McCaskill, Labour MP for York, she's already bringing forward a bill that was aimed at actually stripping Prince Andrew of his title.
Yes, because they don't want him to be the Duke of York, right?
I've been working with the Public Bill Office to look at other alternatives, just in case Rachel's doesn't go through. And what we found is a reasonably obscure 1917 bill called the Royal Titles Bill, and we're going to bring in potentially an amendment to that. And that bill was brought in 1917 to strip various aristocrats in this country, or members of the royal family, who were siding with the Germans in World War I. So we're going to bring in an amendment, a very simple amendment to that Titles Deprivation Bill 1917, I think it's its accurate name, in order to allow the Privy Council to vote to strip various members of the royal family of their titles, should they wish. And clearly, look, if the Duke and Duchess of Sussex hate this country so much, hate the institutions, hate the monarchy, then either they should be giving up the titles themselves, or frankly, we should be helping them to do that.
Well, I think this is a brilliant bill. Great idea. Lady Victoria Harvey, surely the titles have to go.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a bit of both here. It's like, obviously, like, you know, is this treasonous, what they're doing? We all think the second part of this Netflix series is probably going to be the worst.
Oh, yeah.
Everything they've done is bad-mouthing the monarchy, so it does seem like they don't want anything to do with it. I mean, is this like a Wallace Simpson situation where they're just completely departing? I think it's sad for the children, for Harry's children, when they grow up. You know, maybe they won't be getting the titles that they should have had. I think we should just wait and see what happens next week. But obviously, you know, let's watch this space.
It's going to be worse, I think. It's going to be worse.
I mean, he's going to regret it.
Of course he is.
He's going to come out of this cloud that he's under, like this spell that he's under with Meghan. It has to end at some point.
Yeah, but it'll be too late then. Denise Headley, I believe you're opposed to Bob Seeley's bill to strip these two of their titles?
What a complete waste of parliamentary time. I would suggest that we spend a bit more time looking at the cost of living crisis if Mr. Seeley's got time to table bills. How about one where we bring back the £20 uplift for universal credit? I think that would be a better use of parliamentary time. So no, I'm not in agreement with Mr. Seeley's proposal. And I also think the suggestion that they should be stripped of their titles is based on what exactly? Can somebody tell me an evidence?
They're trying to bring down. They're trying to bring down the very institution that they're a
They hate
part
this
of.
country and are trashing its
Right,
institutions.
well, yeah,
for heaven's
they
sake.
don't seem to want to have anything to do with this country. I think that's what the point Dan is saying, is that they basically make all their money. They make all their money.
What's your evidence for that, Lady V?
This country. That's what they do. So why should they have?
Evidence based on your assertion.
Watching all their programmes and everything they've said for the last couple of years. That's a good
when has she
start.
ever said anything positive? Look, she knew what she was signing up for. She stalked him for quite a while.
With the Duchess of Sussex, because you're speaking quite categorically of what she knew.
Well, Denise, have you watched the 3 hours? Denise,
I know people that knew her way before Harry.
Okay, so Denise, having watched the 3 hours, you must see that they don't want to be part of the royal family either.
I think what's clear to me was a number of things. One, this was an excellent piece of television. I think it was very well crafted.
I agree with that.
I also think in terms of them speaking their own truth through their mouth without the white gaze, ratifying what they're supposed to do.
Don't throw the racist card.
Denise, can you explain what you mean by that?
I will. Just let me finish my point. Ratifying the understanding of what they should and should be like, that just didn't happen. What this was for me was an excellent opportunity to hear directly from Harry and Meghan what their lived experience was.
Okay.
And I thank
but what do you mean by the white gaze? I mean, that feels a bit racist to me.
That sounds like you're very racist to white people.
Well, let me explain something for you. I don't know if you're familiar with the author Toni Morrison. And Toni Morrison coined the term the white gaze about the value of Black life only being and having meaning and depth as and when the white gaze, culture, economy, power began to give it meaning.
Right.
And I'm pointing out to you that the critique of the media...
I think this is a bit of a red herring, to be honest.
OK, Denise, let Bob respond. Let Bob respond.
I think
we're just going down a little bit...
Let's cut it.
Denise and Lady V, let Bob respond.
No, I just think generally, there's, the way she talks is a lot of Black people are really racist against white people.
OK, and Bob Seeley, what's your response?
Can I just say, I think...
And Meghan, she plays on that all the time. She's not even... I'm darker than she is. She's more white than...
Bob Seeley?
I think, look, let's park the racism stuff because I think this is just a really divisive argument. There's a simple truth here, not their truth, but the truth, objectively. They trash the monarchy. It's an important institution in our country. If they don't want to be part of the monarchy, they should give up the titles themselves. Please let me finish the point, and please don't talk over people all the time. If we want to help them, either they can give up their titles themselves, or that we can take their titles by an act of Parliament. Because if they hate the monarchy and they hate the institutions of this country, then they shouldn't be part of it.
And Lady V, you must accept, of course, though, that Meghan does have a black mother, Doria, and she spoke in the documentary for the first time.
Everything to do with this country so much, then stop calling herself, with a title. I mean, I know people still call her Meghan Markle anyway.
I totally agree with that.
But don't just profit from dragging the royal family down. Just go away. Go live on an island somewhere, and just so we don't have to
Everybody
even see
has
them
the right
again.
to make a living. I'm sorry that the way that they're making their living perturbs you.
No, but they said they were going away from the public eye and the media.
The big problem we've got...
They went away from the public eye and the media.
And the big problem that we've got is they retain the titles. And I think what Bob Seeley is doing, I give it my full throttled endorsement. This has to happen, so push on with it, Bob, please, and keep us posted. But thank you so much all for a fascinating debate. That is the commentator and broadcaster Denise Headley, the socialite and aristocrat Lady Victoria Harvey, and the Conservative MP Bob Seeley. So who do you agree with? Should Harry and Meghan be stripped of their titles? Well, Faye says, absolutely, enough of this. They're not just trashing Harry's family, they're trashing the UK and making out we're massive racists, when in reality we're probably the most welcoming country in the world. Karen said, no, I'm loving that Harry and Meghan made this documentary. I'm especially loving that it's got people so annoyed. I can't wait to get his book now. And from Eileen, no, because he will always be Prince Harry with Charles as his father. She would then be Princess, which I imagine is her ultimate goal. And your verdict is now in. While 92% of you agree that Harry and Meghan should be stripped of their royal titles, just 8% of you say they shouldn't. So it feels like the British public very much with Bob Seeley on this one. But coming up, do Rishi Sunak and the Conservative government need to take inspiration from Thatcher to crush the unions? Former Tory Minister Anne Widdecombe gives her no-nonsense take, Big Witty style at 9:50. But first, is Meghan wrong to say the UK made her race an issue? And was Prince Harry justified in demanding special treatment for Meghan compared to other royal women because of her ethnicity? My royal masterminds, Lady Colin Campbell and Phil Dampier, join me live on that straight after the break.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons? I don't believe in prisons. I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere. Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's time for my royal masterminds, the top authors Phil Dampier and Lady Colin Campbell. Now, if you thought the Duke and Duchess of Delusion Mexited because they couldn't be bothered with a life of service, you're wrong, apparently. According to the Montecito Moaners, they were forced out of the UK because this is some sort of racist colonial hellhole that was never going to accept an American mixed-race princess. Meghan, who admitted in the doc she was happy to be considered Caucasian when she was trying to climb the greasy acting pole, said it was the UK that made her race an issue.
So now people are very aware of my race because they made it such an issue when I went to the UK. But before that, most people didn't treat me like a black woman.
And while many other royal women before her just got on with the role, Harry felt her ethnicity warranted special treatment.
You get special treatment. Why should she be protected? And I said, the difference here is the race element.
Is Meghan wrong to say the UK made her race an issue? And what could possibly motivate such a hideous and unwarranted attack? Cry people across the world. Well, there might be a clue in the Republican tropes being parroted by this Archewell executive. OK, well, look, I'm going to bring in now Lady Colin Campbell and Phil Dampier. We'll bring you that clip in just a moment. But Lady C, Meghan seemed to want to make all of this about race today, didn't she?
Well, you know what's really interesting to me as a Jamaican who comes from a genuinely mixed culture, that the British nation embraced her not only because she was attractive, but because she was a woman of colour. And she objected to the fact, because she'd spent most of her life passing for white, that she was finally acknowledged as being a woman of colour. And I mean, that's racist. She's the racist. You know, we weren't racist. I'm sorry, she is the racist. Why should she be embarrassed or ashamed of the fact that the British people were embracing her as a woman of colour? You know, she passed for white for most of her life. Most of her identifying documents were as a Caucasian. You know, why are the British people being blamed for the fact that they discovered she was a woman of colour and embraced her on those grounds?
Phil Dampier, do you think it's fair to say that Meghan may be being a bit racist?
Good evening, Dave. No, I don't think so. I must be perfectly honest. When she first arrived on the scene, I didn't actually realise she was mixed race. It didn't even cross my mind. But I mean, the biggest racist in the royal family in the last few years has been Harry himself, hasn't he? He's the one who dressed up as a Nazi. He's the one who filmed a fellow soldier and used a racist term against him. And he says he's learned his lesson. But you know, he was the one who was the worst one. But of course, the rest of us have all got unconscious bias, they call it, don't they? And we all need to be re-educated. But I think he needs to look at himself first. But she was welcomed with open arms. We all wanted her to do well, and I just think their hearts weren't in it. And the fact that they seem to have been filming themselves right from the beginning. It's amazing how much was filmed, wasn't it, all those years ago? Seems to indicate that I think the plan was to leave as soon as they could anyway. And I think these are all just excuses, to be honest, for Brexit.
No, indeed. Now, look, the other huge shock in the documentary, and this is probably something that's going to escape a lot of people, but at one point it was pushing an out-and-out Republican narrative. This is an Archewell executive who works for them. Watch.
But when you actually put it under pressure and you say that there is a family anointed by God, by blood, to rule over this country and other countries around the world, it's a difficult conversation to have.
I mean, Lady C, that bloke, by the way, what a total chancer. He used to work for them within the royal family. So he's no Republican, by the way, but he has been used as their spokesman to push this Republican narrative. And it backs up what I've been saying for some time, Lady C, that I believe they are on a long-term campaign now to actually destroy the entire institution of the monarchy. That's how serious their mission is.
Well, Dan, with due respect, I think that is the accidental effect of their ambition, which is to make as much money as possible on the back of race baiting. And they don't care nor do their cohorts and their employees how much damage they do. But I don't think the objective is to destroy the monarchy. I think the objective is to make as much money for them. And remember, Harry and Meghan are heroes. They are heroes who are fighting the race relations fight, notwithstanding the fact that they have done more damage in the last 3 years to reverse the progress that has been made in the previous 50 years. Meghan is a true racist, and Harry is dominated. He is a dominated, enchanted. I mean, I'm trying to be polite and not use the.
Well, I'd hate to hear you when you were going off on one, Lady C.
Meow-whipped creature. Meow, whip, whip, whip.
I know what you're saying. Very well behaved. I get it. Phil Dampier. It's so shocking, though, that they are using this massive documentary, which is going to be seen by tens of millions around the world, to push a Republican narrative.
Yeah, I mean, they're trashing the press, aren't they? They're as racist. They're trashing the royal family as racist. And now they're even trashing the whole British nation as, certainly Brexiteers as racist. I think that's one of the worst things about it, the fact that that one of the commentators called the Commonwealth Empire too. I thought that was absolutely appalling. I mean, it's only a couple of weeks ago we had Cyril Ramaphosa over, the South African president. The red carpet was rolled out for him. A couple of days later, he went back to South Africa, and millions of pounds were found stolen money in his house, and he's now clinging on to power. Now, that's got nothing to do with the British Empire. That's got nothing to do with slavery. That's got nothing to do with our colonial past. That's got to do with corruption in the ANC today. So let's put the heat on things that are happening today and forget about the things that happened 200 years ago.
Indeed. I want to talk to you both as well about this very odd comparison that Harry keeps making, that Meghan is just like Diana. Watch.
So much of what Meghan is and how she is so similar to my mum. She has the same compassion, she has the same empathy, she has the same confidence. She has this warmth about her.
Phil Dampier, I was a big fan of Diana. I don't like the comparison. I don't see the similarities. Do you?
No, I mean, I don't think Diana was perfect. She used the press herself, but she didn't want to destroy the monarchy, which is what they seem to want to do. And she would have been absolutely horrified at this rift with William. So I think in that respect, she's nothing like Diana.
Lady C, it certainly feels like all of the comparisons to Diana, it makes it obvious, doesn't it, why Meghan has been able to so easily emotionally manipulate Harry, because this is effectively still a young boy psychologically who's never got over the death of his mother, which was obviously a very tragic event back in 1997.
Well, you know, there's a very Oedipal element to their relationship. It's a very sick, in my opinion, element to their relationship. And I have been told by somebody who is very close to Meghan that Meghan used my book on my posthumous biography on Diana as a textbook to actually really not only hook Harry, but enrapture Harry. I'm trying to find a polite word to describe what she did. And Harry is like, you know, the snake charmer and the snake. I mean, he is completely, and when I said it originally in my book, Meghan and Harry, The Real Story, I was accused of being racist and unfair and all the rest of it. But I made the point that Meghan has Harry completely controlled. And this becomes more and more apparent. There's a very disturbing, shall we say, codependent, in my opinion, sick element to their relationship. It's not a great love story, as Harry would like to present it as being. It is a love story of a really rather damaged individual and an opportunist who has found the means and the way and the opportunity to milk him and the situation to her financial and worldly advantage. Because let's remember, if you look at those 3 episodes, there's not one incident of the British press harassing them.
None.
They are being
None
harassed
whatsoever.
in America and Canada.
Totally.
They're not being harassed in Britain.
No, totally right.
You know, why do you flee from harassment in the country that has laws and protocols to protect your privacy?
Yeah. Because she never wanted to be here. That's what it's about. No, look, absolutely amazing analysis, as ever, from my royal masterminds. We will be calling on you next week. Of course, Phil Dampier, Lady Colin Campbell, thank you both so much. But coming up, is it wrong for Harry and Meghan's Netflix doc to describe the Commonwealth, the life work of the late Queen Elizabeth II as the British Empire 2.0, as Phil just referred to? My superstar panel are going to return to debate that in the media buzz after 10. But first, as the militant unions plan a general strike by stealth, do the Tories need to channel Thatcher and launch a crackdown on former Conservative Minister Anne Widdecombe? Weighs in. She's live with me straight after the break.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deebs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Tom Bauer and Samantha Markle on the way, but Anne Widdecombe is tonight's outsider. Marxist union barons seem hell-bent on wrecking our 3rd Christmas in a row, as hospitality bosses say almost a third of party bookings have now been cancelled due to RMT strikes. Faced with a growing winter of discontent, Rishi Sunak is scrambling to introduce new legislation that would ensure minimum service levels during strike action. History tells us, though, that Conservative PMs can live or die by their battles with militant unions. In 74, Heath's government collapsed after turning off power and reducing the country to a 3-day working week, with their election slogan of "Who governs Britain" falling on deaf ears. A decade later, the unyielding Thatcher learned from the mistakes of her rival as she held firm against the 84 to 85 miners' strike. So, Widdy, with a general election in 2 years' time, how significant is it for Sunak to bring back order to Britain's workforce and control these unions who seem to be taking control and ruining our Christmas?
Indeed. I think, first of all, if you're looking at the Heath-Thatcher analogy, there are enormous differences now. When Mrs Thatcher came to power, it was as a result of years and years of union activity. We had the winter of discontent. Even the gravediggers were out on strike. And therefore, she was appealing to a public that was thoroughly fed up over a long time. When you look at opinion polls amongst the public now, it isn't that they're so much in sympathy with the unions, but what they say is they understand why they're doing it. We've some way to go before the public start getting serious and seriously angry. There's a way to go before that. Now, why is that? Well, there are two reasons. The first is we had low inflation for so long that we've come to regard it as an entitlement. And therefore, yes, we understand why the unions think their wages should catch up with inflation, when that's the very last thing that the country actually needs. And the second reason is because of the high spend during COVID, government gave the impression, well, it can always find money if it has to. The money's always there. Somehow we can borrow our way out of anything. So if we can do it for the vaccines, why can't we do it for the unions? So people have got to understand, A, that inflation can only be controlled if you have below inflation wage rises across the board, everybody. And secondly, that there isn't a magic money tree. Public don't necessarily believe that at the moment. That's the battle that Rishi Sunak has got to fight. He's got to get the public understanding what's going on.
The problem is,
only then will they be angry.
Yeah, the problem is, Anne, these unions are almost going for a general strike by stealth at the moment. And the Tories promised a minimum services bill in the 2019 manifesto. It's languishing in the House. I think it's had one reading. So actually, is there anything Sunak can do to save Christmas now?
He probably will find it quite hard to save Christmas this year, but he needs to get on with that bill. 2019, as soon as you say that, people say, well, COVID, you had 2 years of COVID. You had the Brexit trade deal. You had all these things going on. Now you've got war in Ukraine. Excuse. If the government is serious about doing this, it needs to do it with purpose, with will, and it needs to do it now.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. Oh, if only I could get you in there, Widdy, cracking the whip. Anne Whittaker, thank you so much. We will speak next week. But coming up, the man who's documented Harry and Meghan's revenge mission from the start, biographer Tom Bauer, reacts to the couple's cruel digs at William and Kate in their Netflix reality show. His unmissable verdict, it's going to be blockbuster, coming up live at 10:20. But first, as Britain-hating commentators use the Sussex show to attack the monarchy from all angles, was it wrong for them to describe the Commonwealth, remember the Commonwealth is the late Queen's life work, as Empire 2.0? My superstar panel are going to debate that next, and I'll reveal what the first newspaper front pages have to say about the Harry and Meghan nuclear bomb. We're back in just 2 minutes' time.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Dan Wootton, tonight, the Sussexes declare war on Britain, the monarchy, and even their own flesh and blood as Meghan makes her estranged sister the villain of their despicable Netflix reality show.
My half-sister, who I hadn't seen for over a decade, and that was only for a day and a half, suddenly it felt like she was everywhere. I don't know your middle name, I don't know your birthday.
But is that the truth? Samantha Markle joins me live for a TV World exclusive as she hits back at her sister's vicious attacks with her heartbreaking side of the story. An unmissable edition of Uncancelled at 10:40. Plus, as Harry admits he sacrificed everything to join Meghan in her world, have the Sussexes exposed an imbalance in their relationship? Well, Tom Bauer, whose best-selling book Revenge first exposed the couple's war on the Windsors, delivers his damning verdict on that and the cruel digs aimed at William and Kate. His blockbuster analysis coming up live at 10:15. Was it wrong for the one-sided documentary to describe the Commonwealth, which is of course the life's work of the late Queen Elizabeth the Great, as the British Empire 2.0? My superstar panel return to debate that next, and tonight I'm joined by Dominique Samuels, Sean Bailey and Amy Nicol. Elsewhere this hour, as he bats off criticism from eco-activists in the name of self-sufficiency, is Michael Gove right to open the UK's first deep coal mine in 30 years? That's our big debate at 10:30. Devastating news today also as music icon Celine Dion reveals a heartbreaking and life-changing diagnosis.
Sometimes causing difficulties when I walk and not allowing me to use my vocal cords to sing.
More on that really sad developing story and a first look at how tomorrow's newspaper front pages are covering the Sussexes' orgy of victimhood and the media buzz next and throughout the hour. Plus, brand new Greatest Britain Union Jackass just before the night is out, so do stay up with us. But first, with a roundup of the day's headlines at 10, here's Ray Addison.
Thanks, Dan. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. The mother of Harry Dunn says her promise to get justice for her son is complete following the sentencing of Anne Sussexes for causing his death by careless driving. The wife of a US diplomat received 8 months in prison, suspended for 12 months. In 2019, she was driving on the wrong side of the road when she hit the 19-year-old and later pleaded guilty to causing his death. Mrs. Sussexes says she's deeply sorry for the pain that she caused. Speaking outside the court, Harry's mum, Charlotte Charles, praised the verdict. And a warning for those watching on TV, this clip contains flashing images.
You know, Anne Sussexes has a criminal record for the rest of her life. That was something that, you know, she never thought she'd see, the US government never thought that they'd see. And we've worked tirelessly and relentlessly to make sure that she, in the end, still had to do what you and I would have had to have done. So, yeah, Harry, we done it. And we're good. We're good.
15 children under the age of 15 have now died from strep A. The UK Health Security Agency says 13 have died in England since September, whilst Northern Ireland and Wales recorded 1 death each. Health officials say there's currently no evidence of a new strain, and the rise in cases may be due to bacteria being transferred during increased social mixing. Waiting lists for routine NHS treatment in England have hit a record high, and A&E performances are now at a record low. According to the NHS, 7.2 million people were waiting to start routine treatment at the end of October, and just 67% of A&E patients were seen within 4 hours of being admitted. Ambulance response times have improved, but are still more than 40 minutes behind the 18-minute target. The government has defended its decision to open the first UK coal mine for 30 years, saying it will create hundreds of jobs. The Levelling Up Secretary has given planning permission for the new mine in Cumbria, despite a government commitment to phase out coal. COP26 President Alok Sharma called the decision a backward step for UK climate action. Speaking to GB News, Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves refused to say if a future Labour government would close the pit.
We want to create jobs in the north of England, including in Cumbria, but we will be doing that by investing in the jobs and the industries of the future. We've got today a fossil fuel Prime Minister in the age of renewables, investing in the industries of the past rather than those of the future.
And senior palace sources are denying claims that the royal family declined to comment on allegations made in the Duke and Duchess of Sussexes Netflix series. It's understood that Kensington Palace did receive an email from a third-party production company, but attempts to verify it received no response. Now, that contradicts a statement made at the start of the programme. In the series, Harry accuses the royal family of a huge level of unconscious bias. We're on TV, online and on DAB+ radio. You're watching GB News. Back now to Dan.
Tomorrow's news tonight now in our media buzz. The first front pages are in, and the Metro is unsurprisingly leading on Harry and Meghan's Netflix atrocity and that major dig at William and Kate with the headline, "Royals Don't Marry for Love." Also on the front page, bring on La Crunch. Excitement builds for England's World Cup clash with France on Saturday. On the eye, the government has admitted that new strike-busting laws could actually increase the amount of industrial action and make staff shortages worse. I've been looking forward to this one. The Daily Star delivers its verdict on the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary, saying that it's not as good as Homes Under the Hammer. They say that's the official verdict, and of course, they don't name them because Harry and Meghan want their privacy, right? Wrong. The Daily Express leads with "so hurtful," reporting the royals are, quote, deeply upset by Harry's Netflix slurs. That's a exclusive by their royal correspondent, Richard Palmer. The Independent highlights the rising cost of the strep outbreak. 15 British school children now dead. The number of A&E last week has also reportedly doubled. Now, Tom Bauer and Samantha Markle both coming up this hour, but my superstar panel back with me first. The political commentator Dominic Samuels, former Conservative London mayoral candidate Sean Bailey, and author and broadcaster Amy Nicole. Incredibly, one of the biggest victims in today's three-part horror show was the late Queen Elizabeth II herself, whose 70-year legacy was trashed in a matter of hours. Their documentary went to great lengths to dunk on the Commonwealth, one of the Queen's proudest achievements, with far-left commentators calling it the British Empire 2.0.
Commonwealth is still described as that, a club of friends who share common values. I find that language really problematic. I sometimes call the Commonwealth Empire 2.0 because that is what it is.
By the time I met Meghan, I think I travelled half of the Commonwealth. Met people and communities all around the world. And through that, I thought I knew. I thought I had an awareness to issues, ways of living, unconscious bias, like all of it.
Far from being a repackaged British Empire, these two dimwits failed to tell viewers that the Commonwealth is a voluntary association made up of 56 countries. In June, Gabon and Togo, both former French colonies, joined up. The ungrateful Sussexes were literally given the keys to the Commonwealth when Her Majesty made them President and Vice President of the Queen's Commonwealth Trust, two of the most trusted positions in the royal family. But it wasn't good enough for this couple of perma victims who instead decide to throw it all back in the late Queen's face to make a quick buck and show off on Netflix. So Dominique Samuels, I know it wasn't the headlines of the documentary, but for me, it was one of the most despicable moments because the Commonwealth is not the Empire 2.0, and that's the whole reason why the Queen spent 70 years working on it, gave those two that job before the royal wedding when they claimed that they were big fans of the Commonwealth too. So what's changed?
I mean, what's changed is that they've grown bitter and they've grown vengeful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this comment by Afua Hirsch, who is, you know, a Guardian columnist, I mean, that tells you all you need to know. I think it's supposed to sort of give academic basis to the story that they're trying to tell of Meghan being a victim of racism in the UK, and that's all it was. It wasn't about her own actions and behaviour.
But it's still also saying the royal family is bad today and is a nefarious influence on the world, and that's what makes me so upset.
Yeah, it's saying the royal family is basically Empire 2.0, and I think at this point, any facade of Harry still maintaining that he loves and respects his grandmother, the Queen, I don't think he can continue to say this anymore because he is methodically attacking every part of her legacy, and I think it's actually insulting to compare. One second, Amy. I think it's unfair to let me finish the thought. I think it's unfair to compare the empire and the things that happened underneath it. You know, a lot of people suffered. There were some good bits, but a lot of people died and suffered as a result of that. I think that's unfair and wrong to compare it to a voluntary association that countries actually can leave if they like. So it's clearly political.
I think the Commonwealth is such a positive thing, Amy.
Commonwealth and the inequality that you see with the nations involved in the Commonwealth is literally a direct result of wealth extracted from those nations due to colonialism. The inequality that we see between nations is a direct result, and that's why it is empire.
Let me answer that. There's two things. For me, this was the worst thing in the documentary.
I agree.
For Afua Hirsch to use this as a platform...
Brexit was a close second. All Brexit voters being racist, a close second.
Close second. But this shows you what's really going on. Afua Hirsch used this as a platform to make a point. And why this has rumbled on is because lots of people, mainly on the left, have latched themselves onto the Sussex, and the Sussex have willingly accepted them and made all kinds of horrific political points.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have included this. Can I just say one thing, Sean? They wouldn't have included this in the documentary if they didn't agree. This is Harry and Meghan's story. The commentators in there are being used because this is how they feel.
Unless it's who they align themselves with.
And I tell you why I say what I say, Amy. The Commonwealth is a massive vehicle for good. Hold on.
Over 2 billion has been raised in charity work.
They have positive influence. They can rig up business. They can do all kinds of stuff. To attack it in this way is bad. And to suggest it's the empire is simply...
So, Amy, tell me what's bad about the Commonwealth.
The Commonwealth is irrelevant now, and this Empire 2.0, it's not a new idea. Every single year we have this debate about the Commonwealth, and if anything, it's just a sentimental look back at how great Britain was. And I think it's a little bit of British pride. We have to have this... We still have to feel like we're in charge.
That's
If
we
care so much about the Commonwealth, why don't we return some of the wealth that we stole from...
In reparation.
Hold on. Let's make this point.
Hold on. That suggestion.
I can laugh at that suggestion because reparations are a laughable suggestion.
Inequality that's due to Britain's history.
You're talking about people from sovereign governments across the world as if they're children who can't administer their own countries. They join the Commonwealth because they can see the benefit of it.
And a lot of these countries adore the Commonwealth. And by the way, a lot of the countries, if you especially look at the Caribbean, who do want to become republics, I concede that, they do not want to leave the Commonwealth.
The Commonwealth is an absolute farce. It is a community of shared values. Half the countries keep homosexuality illegal. Talk about shared values. There aren't any.
Those are countries that have their own rules.
But one of the rules of the Commonwealth...
This is what's so funny about the woke vote left, isn't it, though? They want to impose their way of thinking.
The Commonwealth should
Impose
dictate
their ways
the
of
policy
thinking
of
of
sovereign
not
nations.
putting gay men in prison. I would like to impose that.
That's the new form of colonialism, then. It's the colonialism of woke thought.
The Commonwealth is antiquated, irrelevant, and is over the time gone by. And the only reason we were hanging on to it was for the Queen. And now the Queen's gone, let it go.
Because those nations could leave at any time. And let's be clear, Amy has just suggested that 2 billion people across the world are antiquated and don't know what they're doing. They're grown-up countries who can make decisions for themselves. They decided to be republics, but still hold on to the Commonwealth because it has a future.
But why would they do that? Because there is not a level playing field. Because of the history of colonialism, there is inequality across the world.
This is the question,
and that is why you want to be part of.
This is the question I wanted to ask, though, because people like you on the left keep making these points.
People like me?
Because you make the same recycled points about colonialism. Like, what next? What do you want from this?
The Commonwealth is completely pointless.
You
Let countries
seem
have
to want
independence.
You seem to
level
want
out
to
the
rewrite history. Colonialism happened.
Return what is theirs.
What matters is
try
what we
and
do
give them a
next.
chance to start on their own.
Here's the
final word, Sean.
Here's a fact.
Final word to Sean.
Unfortunately, Amy's taken that very patronising left-wing.
The Commonwealth in itself is patronising.
Many of the countries that evolved in the Empire and the Commonwealth are richer than this country. Or not. Look at places like Singapore, Canada, all those places. They're not some third world nation that need help.
And by the way, having been born in a smaller Commonwealth nation, there is a huge pride that is attached to being part of the Commonwealth.
I would just say, just finally, having Kehinde Andrews, the professor of Black Studies, who once described whiteness as a psychosis, tells you all you need to know.
Absolutely.
All you need
I totally agree with that,
That was the worst bit for me. I was shocked.
Look, some tragic news today from the world of showbiz. 5-time Grammy winner and music icon Celine Dion has revealed a heartbreaking diagnosis that has forced her to cancel an upcoming European tour and will have devastating impacts, really, on the rest of her life and career. Look.
Recently, have been diagnosed with a very rare neurological disorder called stiff person syndrome, sometimes causing difficulties when I walk and not allowing me to use my vocal cords to sing the way I'm used to. Take care of yourselves. Be well. I love you guys so much. And I really hope I can see you again real soon.
I actually found that genuinely so upsetting. The disorder, which affects 1 in 1 million people, risks robbing the mastermind of legendary hits, including Think Twice, It's All Coming Back to Me Now, and My Heart Will Go On, of the ability to walk, talk, and perhaps most devastatingly, to sing. That's because the condition locks the body up, progressively turning sufferers into human statues. It's incurable, but there are thankfully treatments to slow its development. Now, look, I adore Celine Dion. She is the GOAT, the greatest singer and performer in the world. She needs to be back on that stage. We need her back on that stage. And so I'm sending her God's strength tonight. Amy Nicole, Sean Bailey, Dominic Samuels, do stand by, because coming up, as Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove defends the controversial decision, is opening the UK's first deep coal mine in 30 years worth it to make the country self-sufficient? My superstar panel return to debate that, and we'll learn what more of tomorrow's newspapers make of the Harry and Meghan doc in the Media Buzz, part 2 at 10:30. But first, as Prince Harry admits he sacrificed everything to join Meghan in her world, have the Sussexes exposed an imbalance in their relationship? Will the man who's documented their revenge mission from the start, biographer Tom Bauer, he's live with me in the studio straight after the break.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store? You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Esteemed Meghan Markle biographer Tom Bauer joins me now for more heavy-hitting royal analysis. So, Harry admits in the Netflix show that he gave up his life to join Meghan in her world.
You know, she sacrificed everything that she ever knew, the freedom that she had, to join me in my world. And then, pretty soon after that, I ended up sacrificing everything that I know to join her in her world.
I mean, Tom, it was almost like that each joined a cult. And that sacrifice involved cutting out all sense of criticism, anyone who disagreed with them, family members who challenged them, and they just have each other.
Well, it's all about how they're going to make their money and fame and fortune. It has nothing to do with the truth. I mean, those 3 programmes were really suffering. After the second one, I really felt quite sick. It was an exercise of self-harm. And so to watch it, you really felt in the end, I'm really punishing myself. Yeah. You're like Goebbels of the Third Reich. Netflix succeeded in sort of Stalinist propaganda and making you wash your hands and ask yourself all the time, is this true? Of course it's not true. We're being brainwashed by these Hollywood people who think this is the way to make money. And in the end, destroy our monarchy, to make their fortune.
There are, of course, some specific attacks, Tom, including this one on the Prince and Princess of Wales. Watch.
Always been a hugger. I didn't realise that is really jarring for a lot of Brits. I guess I'd started to understand very quickly that the formality on the outside carried through on the inside. That there is a forward-facing way of being. And then you close the door and you go, oh, great. Okay, we can relax now. But that formality carries over on both sides. And that was surprising to me.
They're not even trying to hide it anymore, are they? They hate William and Kate. They're jealous of William and Kate. And this particular incident, I mean, it was the first time they'd ever met. What did she expect? Kate to run in and give her a huge hug?
But was it even true? I mean, you've got to ask yourself, probably not. And this is from a woman who attacks her father mercilessly in the series, a man who she abandoned for months to the media, and now presents her mother, Doria, speaking for the first time, telling outright lies about her ex-husband. I mean, this was a calculated attempt against the families. I mean, the one thing that Samantha Markle always predicted was, just like Meghan turned against our family, she'll get Harry to do the same. And that was an exercise of doing that. And it was shocking of Harry to sit there and let his wife attack Kate, who'd been so good to him, who was his friend. And what would Diana think of Harry attacking William in that way? She'd be appalled by her son's behaviour. And that was, again, so nauseating, the way he kept on bringing in Diana. Diana, who appealed to the media all the time, who phoned journalists secretly, who brought Martin Bashir into her office, who cooperated with Andrew Morton, who kept on calling Richard Kay. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Well, Meghan herself.
And Meghan herself.
In the months before she met Harry, was setting up paparazzi pictures in London. She now acts as if the paparazzi are literally the devil incarnate.
She begged the paparazzi to photograph her, and they wouldn't. And when they did, she says, oh, I don't want to, I'm hurt. And that ridiculous story about how they first met, the whole thing was a tissue of inaccuracies, to be polite.
Well, because what do you make of that? Because, as you know, Harry was always very insistent in 2017, telling the BBC it was a blind date. All of a sudden, there's a completely new story that they met via Instagram. So which are we meant to believe?
But not only that, can you really believe that photograph of Meghan wearing a droopy, snoopy nose and things somehow said, oh, that's the woman for me? It's ridiculous. I mean, it was calculated to undermine my book. Because, of course, I got the real story that he got a blind date and was called up and all that. And this is the other thing, which is one of the many, many lies she tells, that she arrived in London, full career, single girl, wasn't interested. Of course, she'd been coming to London since 2013, hunting for a man to marry. Yes. She wanted an Englishman. She was on a manhunt.
And she also wanted a famous.
And she arrived in London immediately when she went to Wimbledon, talked to the woman she was working for, and said, you know, Harry, can you arrange a blind date? And the woman did. The whole thing is a tissue of lies. And Netflix knows it's untrue. And that is what's so shocking, that those executives in Hollywood are plotting to destroy the monarchy because they just see money in that, as do, of course, the Sussexes.
Shame on them. There was one really shocking moment, Tom, and this has been going viral throughout today, because I think it was one of the only moments, actually, where you got a sense of cracks starting to show between Harry and Meghan. So this is when Meghan really mocked our culture and the fact that she had to curtsy in front of the late Queen the first time she met her. Watch this and keep your eye on Harry during this, by the way.
I mean, Americans will understand this. We have medieval times, dinner and tournament. It was like that. Like, I curtsied as though I was like... Pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty.
She's taking the piss out of the Queen.
Taking the piss. And worse than that, lying, because there's no way. In her original description of the curtsy, it was a small curtsy in Windsor Park. The idea that she bent down like that is just ludicrous. But, you know, she's hamming it up. She's a third-rate actress. She can't do proper acting, even. So that's why she's doing it. Really, Dan, what was the worst part, really, is not that in the program. It was that they cast every white man and woman in Britain as racist. Everyone is racist.
And every
according to
Brexit
them.
voter is racist.
Is doubly racist. And somehow that is what really stank. I mean, going on and on about the racism of the tabloids, but only one example, one sentence on an online thing, but no other examples, and then go on and on that we're all, if we've got a white skin, we're clearly racist. I found that a very objectionable.
Well, indeed, Tom. And actually, the only specific example of racism that Meghan ever recalled in her own life was a despicable example where her mother, Doria, was called the N-word. That happened in Los Angeles.
Exactly.
Where Meghan was born. And by the way, also, all of the paparazzi pursuits of Harry and Meghan took place in either the US or Canada. None in the UK where they had protection.
And not only that, it was never people who were employed, it was always freelancers. But Meghan's father, Thomas, told me explicitly throughout her childhood, throughout her life, even into Hollywood, she never experienced any racism. She never came home saying, I've been in any way targeted. There's that one example where she had to tick a box to describe her race.
But it's ridiculous,
and that was it.
Isn't it, to suggest that the US is some sort of a place of racial harmony, and then you come over to the UK, the most tolerant country in the world, and that's when you discover racism.
The whole thing was like...
Tom, I've got to ask you, next week is looking like that's where the real grenades are going to be thrown at the royal family. I mean, we've got a bit of it today, there was a hint of it, but next week is when we get to Megxit and all the really contentious issues that you've obviously written about. What's King Charles going to do about this, and what do you think he should do about it?
Well, I fear that King Charles doesn't like confrontation. He doesn't want to take a stand against his son. And at the moment, he's thinking of doing nothing. But I don't think that can be sustained. He's got to take a lead. And I think the people of this country, the monarchists, will say, this has now got to end. Whether he says it or whether William, Prince of Wales, actually says the truth, that we welcomed Meghan. She is the one who dictated her departure. She's the one who's declared war, has got to be decided. But it's got to be decided this week. And the courtiers in Buckingham Palace have got to start thinking pretty hard how to protect not only Britain, but also our monarchy and our global reputation. Because believe me, this Netflix series is going to do huge damage to Britain's reputation.
Yeah, the time for a respectful silence is very much over, in my view. Tom Bauer, author of the best-selling Meghan biography, Revenge. Thank you so much. We'll speak next week, hopefully, Tom. But coming up, after she was cruelly made the villain of Harry and Meghan's Netflix hit job, the Duchess's estranged sister, Samantha Markle, joins me live to hit back with her heartbreaking side of the story. A TV World exclusive coming up at 10:40. But first, is Michael Gove's decision to open the UK's first deep coal mine in 30 years necessary to make the country self-sufficient? My superstar panel return to debate that, and we'll find out what more of tomorrow's newspapers make of the Sussex dock. That's up straight after the break.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News.
Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Let's return to tomorrow's news tonight now in our Media Buzz. Front pages are all in now. The Guardian leads with disturbing reports that Iranian forces are shooting at the faces and genitals of female protesters. Civil unrest and anti-government protests started in September following the death in police custody of Mahsa Amini after she was arrested for violating the country's mandatory hijab law. The Daily Mail leads on anger in the palace, with insiders branding Harry and Meghan's new Netflix show an assault on the Queen's legacy. The pair stand accused of wanting to bring down the monarchy with the docuseries. The Daily Telegraph also leads on alleged quotes from palace insiders who have branded the Netflix series, quote, deeply offensive and a direct hit on the late Queen's legacy. The Sun berates Prince Harry's betrayal of the monarchy, leading with the headline, Harry the Nasty, after this morning's bombshell release. The Times also report that the palace and Netflix have clashed over the Sussexes soap opera reality show. Sources from the palace dispute the documentary makers' claim that the royal family declined to comment. Stop this circus, begs the Daily Mirror, as it slams the timing of the documentary, much of which is filmed in the Sussex mansion in Montecito following the loss of the late Queen, and as ordinary Brits are forced to choose between eating and heating. So Harry and Meghan have even lost the left. And Samantha Markle is standing by to give me her first reaction on the documentary in just a few moments' time. But my superstar panel back with me now, Dominique Samuels, Sean Bailey and Amy Nicol. Now, after taking the brave decision to approve the UK's first coal mine in 30 years, Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove has spent the day fending off furious eco backlash. So he waved through the controversial £165 million project in Cumbria. I say yes to that. The decision has been disputed for years. It paves the way for 500 new regional jobs, but has outraged environmentalists who say the move obliterates the UK's image as a climate leader. Presenting a statement to Parliament today, Gove sent a message to eco-Luddites that Britain must become self-sufficient.
Will be the only net zero metallurgical coking coal mine in the world. And it is vitally important that all of us recognise, as the inspector does on page 255, that the proposed development would to some extent support the transition to a low-carbon future, specifically as a consequence of the provision of a currently needed resource from a mine that aspires to be net zero.
Leading the chorus of opposition is Labour's answer to Greta Thunberg, Shadow Climate Change Secretary Red Ed Miliband, who just last month was suggesting the UK owes £1 trillion in reparations for the Industrial Revolution.
Opening a new coal mine marks the death knell for any claims this government has to climate leadership, and it won't provide the sustainable jobs we need. We should be going full pelt for the clean, green jobs of the future. But Rishi Sunak is so weak, being pushed around by his backbenchers, that he just can't deliver.
Worth noting, we find ourselves in this energy mess thanks to the green agenda of the likes of Lib Dem leader Nick Clegg. Former Lib Dem leader Nick Clegg, whose short-sighted knee-jerk lobbying halted new nuclear power and saw fracking banned 10 years ago. So, Dominique Samuels, I applaud this move. It doesn't mean that we're not green. It means that we are sensible.
I would say that using coal is actually good for the environment. And I think because we're so privileged here in the West, we sort of forget what coal is actually responsible for. We heat our homes using coal, we light our streets using coal, the equipment and machinery that offices and our homes use are powered by coal. Coal has actually helped developing countries such as India and China vastly raise the living standards of their people through things like water irrigation systems.
And this is so we can make steel.
Yeah,
right?
which help fight off things like drought, so people can have a steady flow of crops all year round. There are very many pluses to coal, and what the left and the green agenda lot like to do is they like to focus on the negatives of coal and use that to paint it as a wholly bad thing, and it's just not.
And honestly, Sean, I watch Red Ed and I feel terrified about what's to come. Look, because if he is our Environment Secretary, he's going to destroy our economy.
Look, Ed showed that Labour are actually not ready to run the country.
No, they're not.
Because at some point you have to make tough decisions. And let's look at what's happening here.
Yeah, how are people going to heat their homes?
It's our independence and our affordability versus his view on the world. And what's important here, it's a carbon neutral coal mine as opposed to the coal that we buy in that will be adding to the world's carbon output. And the other thing as well, until he tells us what he would do in two very important arenas, he needs to be quiet. Unless he's going to tell us, will he close that coal mine? And where else does he propose to get power from? Until he can answer those two questions,
I mean,
everything
Amy,
he
it's
says
so
is
ironic, isn't
inconsequential.
it? Because Labour used to be the party fighting to keep coal mine open. Now they want to shut them. How far your party has fallen.
I could say the same back to you at the moment. I think this is hilarious. Opening a coal mine in 2022 and Dominique listing the benefits of coal mining.
No,
right, so
I'm sorry. You
it
can
really
laugh at that, but the millions of people across the developing world who owe their lives to coal and fossil fuels, I don't think they'd be laughing as much as you are.
It reminds me of being like, well, you know, I started smoking and I met my boyfriend that way and I had a great time and I had a good time smoking. And, like, then I found out.
Are you being for real? Sorry, Amy's talking nonsense because...
Do you genuinely believe,
I can't believe we're having this conversation.
Do you genuinely believe that we can be energy self-sufficient in this country based on Miliband's plan?
And also, sorry, can I just ask...
This is about steel making anyway, isn't it? So
yeah.
It's kind of all a bit irrelevant. But no, I don't...
It's not irrelevant, though.
I don't support opening coal mine in 2022. I think there are probably other options.
Amy, do you think...
If we want to have a wider conversation about energy,
can I ask you a question?
That's one of the things that Labour have got so right.
Can I ask you a question?
Okay. And I don't think it was in the 2019 manifesto.
Amy, darling, let's focus. Do you think importing coal to make steel from the likes of Russia, the USA and Colombia is environmentally friendly?
That fine. I will concede that you might have a point.
Right, okay.
But the point is that this story opened a wider issue.
Of agreement, Amy Nicole, Sean Bailey, Dominic Samuels, do stand by, because coming up, should Harry and Meghan apologise for weaponising Brexit in their Netflix orgy of victimhood? We'll discuss that as my superstar panel return to nominate for today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. But first, it's a TV World exclusive as Meghan's estranged sister Samantha Markle heads back after being made the villain of the Duchesses of Delusion's story. She delivers her unmissable verdict straight after the break.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Now, after the release of their Netflix series, Christmas in Montecito is bound to be a very lonely affair as the Sussexes viciously cut ties with each of their families. Just take a look at Meghan's snobbery when she trashed her father Thomas Markle's side of the family, particularly going after her wonderful half-sister Samantha.
And suddenly you just have my mom, who's classy and quiet and there, and then you have the other side of my family that is just acting differently.
My half-sister, who I hadn't seen for over a decade, and that was only for a day and a half, suddenly it felt like she was everywhere.
I don't know your middle name. I don't know your birthday. I hadn't had a fallout with her. We didn't have a closeness to be able to have that. And I wanted a sister.
Well, in a TV World exclusive, the victim of those vicious attacks, Samantha Markle, joins me now to give her side of the story. And look, Samantha, we had Tom Bauer on earlier, who has obviously researched both sides of the story, and he's with you. He thinks Meghan is telling porcupines. But let's respond to what she said step by step, Sam. So she's trying to make out there that she has no form of relationship with you.
Well, that's been the rhetoric so far. And I think, you know, I was never out there saying that we were close. We had a normal relationship for older brothers and sisters with a younger sibling. And so that's pretty clear. It was, we thought, my brother and I thought, a pretty normal life. But it wasn't until the time of the wedding when the media started to get to us. In other words, we didn't seek out the media. We were living our lives quietly and privately. But the media found us. And it seems as though as soon as they did, even though we said some favorable things in the beginning, the MO became, oh my God, they found my family. And in my opinion, this is what it seemed like, seal off the hatches so nobody can talk. And almost instantly, it seemed as though dirt was being thrown upon us so that if somebody did speak to us, that we would have no credibility. So it was an interesting phenomenon, and this vicious cycle of wanting to set the record straight, wondering what was going on with her, wanting to give her the benefit of the doubt, and still all the while feeling like we were defending ourselves against things that weren't real in the media and always out there. So it's not like we were out there trying to, it was very weird.
And what's so horrible about what she's done in this TV show is she's actually weaponized your own daughter, Samantha, Ashley. But finally, she did have to admit that she uninvited your daughter to her wedding. Watch this.
I don't think anyone understands what that very small comms team was dealing with. They just couldn't wrap their head around, and I have compassion for it. How do we explain that this half-sister isn't invited to the wedding, but that the half-sister's daughter is. And so, with Ashley, the guidance at the time was to not have her come to our wedding.
Wow.
Firstly, yeah, wow, what a porky pie. When that happened, also at the same time, we had found out that with my dad's heart attack, the Queen and King Charles wanted to reach out, but we heard that my sister said no. Similarly with this, I just recently found out, you know, it's really sad because Ashley and I were on talking terms. We were, I thought, bonding after not speaking for a while, even though we did speak. I wanted my kids to be raised with their grandparents because I didn't trust babysitters. When I was dealing with disability and having to work, I didn't know anyone in Los Angeles well enough that I felt safe with that. So I felt like I was doing the admirable
because you're in a
thing.
wheelchair, Sam, and you were going through, and you admit it, you were going through a very difficult divorce, but you always knew that your daughter was safe with her paternal grandparents.
And that was the priority. So to weaponize something so sensitive against me to lie is crazy. But here's the story about Ashley. I found out from a royal insider that the royals did not make that decision and that Ashley was lied to. And my sister, in fact, was the one reportedly who told Ashley she couldn't go to the wedding. So I felt like she was manipulating my daughter, lying to her. And that's really sad because my daughter seemingly was holding a grudge and feeling like I was the reason she couldn't come to the wedding.
It's as if Meghan is now trying to turn your own daughter against you.
Right. You know, and sadly, you know, my daughter went on and had her own life as I'd always wanted. We weren't close, but we were forming bonds again, and that was really special and important to me. And I think she felt an alliance with Meg, but for Meg to twist that and to lie and then suggest that the reason she couldn't go to the wedding, to put that on me when that was not true at all.
No.
The royals weren't...
And by the way, what you're saying is completely correct, Samantha, because I've spoken to lots of my own royal sources as well, and they were always very clear. They never told Meghan who to invite to her own wedding. She had full control over that. But what she wants to do is blame the courtiers so she doesn't have to own her own decisions. Now, can we just talk? Can we just look at this terrible comment, and I really do mean that Prince Harry made about your father, Thomas, Samantha?
Right.
Of course, it's incredibly sad.
Sorry, guys.
She had a father before this, and now she doesn't have a father. And I shouldered that because if Meg wasn't with me, then her dad would still be her dad.
What? I mean, her father is recovering from a stroke, literally about a 3-hour drive. I mean, could you believe that? She doesn't have a father.
No, and that was all lies too. And to suggest that at one point that they allegedly said they sent a car and he refused to get in. No, he was in the hospital with a heart attack. He wasn't getting text messages. And for them to say, for her to allegedly say, well, Samantha must have erased his text. How can I do that from Florida when he's in Rosarito, Mexico? I don't have telekinesis.
Yeah, because they're trying to say, just to clarify, Samantha, for people who haven't watched the horrible Boar Fest, Meghan tried to claim that someone had intercepted her father's phone, presumably you, and that you were sending the messages on behalf of Thomas.
Right, not possible. He was in Rosarito, Mexico. I was in Florida. Not possible at all. So that's, that's really far-fetched, and it's really hurtful.
Sam, has your father watched the series? Has Thomas watched so far? Because this must be incredibly hurtful to him.
No, we briefed him, but I didn't want him to watch because, like everything, it's lie upon lie upon lie. And he's been through so much, 2 heart attacks and a stroke. And she enabled this, watched it, did nothing about it. And for Harry to say something like that is egregious. At no point They could have gotten on a plane just like they jet set to Paris and go have lunch somewhere, or go to New York, or go to the Ripple of Hope Awards. Why didn't they get on a plane and go to my father in the hospital or his house? And no, the paparazzi would not have hounded them. That's a cheesy excuse. They were never there. They didn't want to be there. And everything else was PR, smoke, and mirrors. So, and I think here's another thing for Harry to say and Meghan to say we never got to tell our story. Baloney. You were paying multi-million-dollar PR firms to tell your story the way you controlled it, the way you wanted it told, while you also disparaged and silenced others. So I don't want to hear we're finally getting to tell our story. We've heard their stories all along. That's what multi-million-dollar PR firms do. So that is a lie.
Totally. Well, look, Sam, I trust what you're saying.
Wow.
I know. And I know, I know that what you're saying is correct and is the truth. And I know it's been a painful day for you. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your side of the story with the world, because it's very important. This is one side of the story in the Netflix documentary. And as you say, there's a lot of porcupines. So Sam Markle, thank you so much. But it's time now to reveal tonight's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. My superstar panel return. Dominique Samuels, your GB nominee, please.
So my Greatest Britain is Maxwell Harrison. He's an international ballroom dancer who has started a petition to reform the Vaccine Damage Payments Act.
Great guy.
Yep. He was injured by the Pfizer vaccine after his second shot. He contracted heart disease. So he's trying to help people that have been injured by it, that are just not getting any sort of government support at all, and with really stringent and ridiculously high thresholds for them to actually receive compensation.
Sean Bailey, your nominee.
My nominee is Raheem Sterling for returning home to his family after they'd suffered a break-in. So he came back from the World Cup, even though he was trying to represent his country. And now that he's helped his family out, he's planning to return back to the World Cup and hopefully score a goal.
And Amy Nicole, your nominee.
My nominee is Yusra Mardini. She is a Syrian refugee who arrived here on a small boat and went on to represent her country at the Rio Olympics. And she's the subject of a new Netflix film called The Swimmers, which I would love it if everyone would watch.
OK, I'm going to go for Raheem Sterling. I was tough on him earlier in the week, but good on him for getting on that plane. It's for his country. It's what he should do. Very quickly, Dominique, your Union Jackass.
Mine is Harry and Meghan for weaponising Brexit in their documentary.
Yeah, there's many reasons that's probably the best one. Sean Bailey, your nominee.
Mine is the RMT Union. London are facing more strikes as they figure out what's happening in their latest ballot. We need the mayor to stand up and stop these strikes.
And Amy Nicole, your nominee.
Matt Hancock. And I hope that's the last time we ever say his name on television.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Would be nice.
That would be nice. Do you know what? Earlier in the week, Matt Hancock actually won over Harry and Meghan. But I'm going to do a flip reverse tonight, because after that 3-hour Netflix atrocity, of course, Dominique's right, Harry and Meghan, the Union Jackass of the day. What a disgraceful attack on the country, on the monarchy, on the British people, but most fundamentally on the memory of Queen Elizabeth II, just 3 months after her death. Shame on them. For Dominique Samuels, Sean Bailey, Amy Nicole, thank you so much. My superstar panel, brilliant show. Thank you for your company all week. I've loved it. I'm back again Monday night from 9 p.m. Next up, it's Headliners, though. Good night.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GBNews, the People's Channel.